there, guys. Welcome to our second attempt at this video. We actually started recording it about 15 minutes ago, and as the guys are sitting talking, I'm thinking, why does my browser say go live at the top? And I'm like, should I have clicked that? So we're going to pretend this is brand new and fresh. So yeah, welcome to another video. This is a kind of first, certainly for my channel. I'm not joined by one, but two people. So, you know the grumpy old bugger, Mr. Lukozer, at the top right. He needs no introduction. You might not recognise the chap at the bottom, though you might recognise his name. He's been one of my friends on YouTube for quite a long time, Mr. PantherUK. Chris, I'll let you just introduce yourself and just can you tell the viewers a bit of sort of flavour about yourself, mate?
Cheese and onion. No, joking. Yeah, I've been watching Alan's channel for about 3 years now. I'd like to think, good mates with him, and
yeah,
I'm a bit of a Commodore fanboy and a SID-aholic and an headbanger. And I record SIDs in stereo and put them out for free over c64audio.com.
So how many albums have you released now? About 5, 6, is it?
5 and a Christmas one, and the stuff I recorded for the 8-Bit Symphony.
Mm-hmm.
And very I'm good. Currently working on a new one with none other than Jerome Tell.
Very nice.
Not bad,
yeah. So obviously, you know, you've seen the title. What we're going to try and achieve tonight is, I was going to say pick the definitive 15 best SID tunes ever, but you'll hear the sort of rationale that we've applied. So it might not be the definitive, but I think it's safe to say we're going to pick the tunes that we're going to pick are going to be up there with the best ones. What we've done is we've each picked 5 of our sort of favourite SID tunes. None of us know what each other has picked, and then we'll kind of do them in reverse order. But there is a possibility that we've actually only got 5 between us, but you never know. You never know. So obviously, you know, to be into SID music, we've all must have some kind of history to the C64. So Panther, do you want just to kind of tell us a wee bit about how did you first get involved in SID music?
Well, way back when I sold my Spectrum after going round the mate's house and, you know, seeing his big brown Commodore and asking about it. And he said, what have you got? And I said, I've got a Spectrum. And he was like, well, you want to listen to this? And he loaded up Crazy Comics, obviously by Rob Hubbard. And musically, for computers, my life was changed forever. And I sold that Spectrum within a month and bought his spare Commodore off of him for 80 quid. And that was that. I was fully ensconced.
That's quite a game to be. So was that the very, very first sort of C64 game you'd seen?
Yeah. I kind of seen them in the shops, but not really paid attention to them, having a Spectrum. You know, I bought Spectrum games. But after hearing that, coming through the television speaker, not just coming out of a little farty speaker, I was honestly, I was completely blown away. And I told Rob Hubbard this when I met him last year in Hull.
Oh, nice. I've never had the privilege to meet the guy. He always comes across as a right down to earth kind of type person.
Well, he was still nice to me when I was pissed up, and I said, "Put your money away, Rob. I'll get you and your missus a drink." And he didn't bat an eyelid. He just went, "Oh, thanks." So,
so yourself, Lukozer, how were you always emulators, or did you have a 64 or what?
No, I had a 64. We got ours in 82. So it
82?
Must have been, yeah, so it must have been brand new, because the 82 was when the 64 came out, or at least in Europe. It may have been slightly earlier in the US, not too sure about that. But of course, when we got it, it was just the computer. There was no data set with it, so there was no bundled games with it, and it was a couple of weeks before we got the first game for it, which was Hungry Horace, which is not a game that is really stretching the SID to any sort of extent whatsoever. I mean, there was music there, but yeah, nothing to write home about.
So you got a Spectrum game as your first Commodore 64 game?
Yeah, it was a good choice, that, wasn't it? But I mean, at that time, my uncle had a Spectrum, and I would be around his place every Sunday, forever, like, just playing like game after game after game, and so I just wanted something that I was familiar with, and we ended up with that. It was not my first choice, I have to say, but yeah, that's what we got.
But how long did you have your 64 without a data set?
Oh, it was about a couple of weeks, and then when we got it,
Parents, didn't you? Bloody hell!
eh?
If you're Commodore 64, you're not getting a tape recorder to load anything.
That's it. Yeah, all I was doing was just programming, and in those days, the limit of my programming ability was 10 print, fuck off, 20 go to 10. That was it. So yeah, so for a couple of weeks, it was just sitting there gathering dust, really. But once we got the first game, they all started coming along in relatively quick succession.
Well, I got, when did I first see a C64? I think it was a mate's house I went up there and I saw, I can't remember the first game I saw, but I bought my C64. You've probably heard this story a billion times, but I bought it was hire purchase. Of course, I think it was £12 a week, a month I had to pay, or not, it was a week, I think it was a week, it doesn't matter. And the very, very first game that I bought was Crazy Kong by Interceptor Software, which it's got to be, I think it's featured on one of our videos. It's one of the worst video games, not just one of the worst Donkey Kong clones, one of the worst C64 games. In fact, one of the worst video games ever.
It's not the best, is it?
Well, suddenly Hungry Hobbits doesn't seem so bad,
Crazy Kong, Hungry Horse, Crazy Comets. Bloody hell.
Yeah, there is quite a leap in the game quality there,
Somehow I didn't want to sell it. I think it was a couple of weeks later, a mate came up with a C90 tape, and he had all these games. And I said to him, "Well, can I copy it?" And he goes, "Oh, I've got to go home for my dinner." So what I did was I got him to load. It was Kong 64 by Analog Software, which is actually it's actually pretty pish, but it looks good. It's a Donkey Kong clone, obviously. And I got him to load it, and then I didn't turn my C64 off for like a couple of days, because if I switched it off, I lost the game.
Were you a bit of a bloody Kong addict back then or something,
Well, there wasn't very much. You need to remember, back in 1983, there wasn't a hell of a lot out at that point.
Well, there was enough to avoid having a gorilla fest.
Yeah, I'd say I'm thinking of a few that were better than Crazy Kong clones.
You didn't see how C90 tape, did you?
Oh, is that good, eh?
Aye. So anyway, so that's kind of how we got into the C64s. So I'm going to let PantherUK going to kick off with this one. Obviously, the C64 is how old? When did it come out? 82?
82, 38 years.
So what would that be? 38 years, you just said that. 38 years, that was like 4 decades ago. So why on earth are people still listening to SID music?
Well, I mean, a good tune's a good tune. I mean, this one behind me here, that's the one all the SID Effects albums are recorded on. I've got 2 SID chips in that, one of each of the 6581 and the 8580, so it kind of gives me the stereo. It's a free voice synthesizer, all right, by today's standards, against your Yamaha Tyrus keyboards and stuff like that. It's basic, but it is a free voice synthesizer, and I think it's got a sound that it strikes a chord. There doesn't seem to be much middle ground on the SID. People either seem to love it or they don't, and I just think it's got a sound. Well, it certainly agrees with the sonics that I like going through my head. Anyway, it's just one of them things. It's almost intangible to me. I just like it. I know what I like. There's songs that give me goosebumps. I mean, the song "The Last Straw" by Marillion gives me goosebumps because of the way Fish sings it. There's songs that I've got on my list that do the same thing because the tones that the songs hit give me the same feeling. And not only that, you think of us in the UK having mostly tapes rather than discs. Things like loading music, it's part of that. You had to listen to it if you wanted the game to load, basically. And then I mean, there was games that I loaded and turned off because I just wanted to listen to the music, and then I'd turn them off and load something else. So it's part of my childhood. A good tune's a good tune, and I think the SID chip is an excellent synthesizer. In fact, I still maintain to myself it's the best sound chip a computer was ever invented.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think for me, I mean, well, probably yourself, Lukozer, as well. We were very, very fortunate that we were here at the very, very start of this exciting, industry or hobby, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we saw Space Invaders, and suddenly here was something on your TV that you could actually interact, you could influence by moving a joystick, whatever. And then obviously, the music that was, I mean, I don't even think music was part of computer games until the C64 came along. And then suddenly, I don't want to go spoiling what's on my list, but a couple of games that I heard, and you're just like, I do not believe I've just heard that. That's coming out this little box. Previous to that, it was just wee blips and bleeps, and your mate Spectrum was making little farty noises, and it was stunning music. And just to kind of follow on for what you're saying, Panther, I eventually moved on to the Atari ST, and I was so excited when I got it. And then part of me died when I loaded a game and the music was shit. And I thought, fucking hell, I've just sold my C64. I've taken a loan out to buy this thing. Yeah, it looks graphically, it looks wonderful. And the sound shit. It's like going back. I felt I'd gone back. And then when I got the Amiga, that addressed all the issues. But the problem with the Amiga is, and even more so now, you never, ever, ever, ever play a game. I don't know if any of you guys have got consoles or even a modern game. You never play Call of Duty and go, fucking hell, listen to the music. That is stunning. That is awesome. You just take it for granted. But I think because we knew that this tune was coming out this little grey slab or burgundy, whatever it is, brown slab, you knew it was computer music, and that made it so special. The minute computers became too sophisticated that they could actually digitize sounds and have proper orchestras, then it was lost. So I think for me, I think the C64 was the computer. The fact that it could make all this music was just an incredible thing.
Yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up there, really. I mean, I remember, playing Space Invaders down the arcades, and I remember the old Atari 2600, and the audio was purely functional. I mean, you got the occasionals that would jingle played, and most of the time, especially on the 2600, it sounded horrendous. And okay, it did take a couple of years after you got the Commodore 64, and the game that really stood out as being like the start of like the music really taking off. It may not sound like much now, but it was Daley Thompson's Decathlon. And the reason for that was that was the first game that I had. In fact, it was the first game I ever saw that had loading music. And when I first put it on, I thought the fact that the music had started, I thought that meant the game had loaded. So, of course, I stopped the tape, which buggered it up. And then it suddenly dawned on me, hang on a minute, it's playing this music while the game is loading. I had no idea that a computer could do that. And that's something that the Commodore 64 has done with me a few times. I see a game or I see a program or whatever running on it, and it's had me thinking, I had no idea a computer could do that. And the SID chip, well, did that on several occasions. There's certainly one of mine here. The first time I heard it, I just sat there listening to it for about 10 minutes. I didn't even attempt to start the game. I just wanted to sit there and listen to this thing. When you hear what the game is, you'll probably understand why it was not a good idea to start playing the game afterwards. But yeah, the music made it worth buying. Around that time, I was buying plenty of games purely for the music that was in it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you mentioned Daley Thompson's Decathlon. I think that's the first game that I can recall that had loading music.
Yeah, it was a very simple tune. I think it was a copy of a coin-op arcade game music, but I can't for the life of me remember which one it was.
Aye. You're right. Yeah, I can't remember. Aye, as somebody in one of my videos mentioned that I can't remember. Can you recall, Panther, what it is? No.
What the loader from
Daley
Daily?
Thompson's loading music.
I can hear it in my head, but I can't
Yeah.
think of what it is. I think the first, because I don't think Crazy Comets had loading music. I think the first loading music I heard was probably on either Bomb Jack or Commando. It's the same one. It's it's Mark his cover in video.
Yeah, the only other possible game that might, and I'm saying might with a capital M, of had loading music was the early US Gold games.
Oh, when it played, yeah, the Star Spangled Banner and all
Yankee
that.
Doodle Dandy and all that kind of shit. Was that before or after Daley Thompson's?
I think that might have been before, because a lot of them were Epic's games, weren't they? From
and stuff like Fort Apocalypse and Tapper and things like that.
Winter games and
possibly, but yeah, as you say, yeah, having that loading, having music like that, you know, when a game was loading was just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't always great. I mean, well, like those US Gold ones, and yeah, the Elite games with Bomb Jack. I remember it was a pretty awful rendition of some song that was in the charts around that sort of time. I can't for the life of me remember the title of it.
Living in Video.
Which one was it?
Living in Video, I think it was called.
Was that the one? The title doesn't mean anything to us, but then pop music, no, it just...
What was that? Bomb Jack, you said?
Bomb Jack used it, yeah. I remember Frank Bruno's Boxing used it. I think it was something that Elite put on all of their games for quite a while, actually. Because it was all using the Novaload system, wasn't it?
No. I think the first game that I actually had any sound when it was loading was Encounter, I think it was. That was one of the first games to have a Novaload.
Well, that's got to be an early one, yeah, because that was an 84 release. That, so I think that's before Daley Thompson Decathlon, because wasn't that 85 Daley Thompson's came out?
I can't remember.
I think it was around then.
Yeah, I know we're digressing. The first Turbo Load game I ever bought was Revenge of the Mutant Camels.
Yes, and it needed it. Without the turbo load, it was 15 minutes. With the turbo load, I think it was about a minute and a half. I mean, it made a huge difference, that.
So, obviously, yeah, I mean, the C64, so, I mean, it's. I think the fact that... Do you think that SID music is something that, you know, this current generation is going to listen to? Or do you think it's something... Do you think it's based in nostalgia as well?
I think that's down to the individual. I mean, my youngest boy, he's 20 now, and last year he came to Hull with me to see the 8-Bit Symphony, and he's downloaded the albums that I've recorded so he could listen to the music and understand what it was about, and he loved it. I mean, obviously I backed it. The Kickstarter they did for the Pro version, they've just recorded in Prague. My boy also backed that as well on Kickstarter. I didn't even know about that. I said, he told me he had an update. What are you doing getting updates from the Symphony? And he went, I backed it. So it's had an effect on him, and he's only just 20. So who knows?
Well, I think another thing, what you said earlier really hit the nail on the head. Good music is good music, whether it's a SID tune or not. So that for me is what makes a difference. So one of my choices, if I'd heard it on, say a Jean-Michel Jarre album or a Tangerine Dream album or something, I would have been well pleased. So the fact that it's a Commodore 64 that's doing the music, you could almost say is irrelevant. It's just a really good piece of music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to put you in the spot, Panther, but I know you're obviously friends with like Chris Abbott, etc. What's your take on modern remakes, or whatever you want to call it, when they take a SID tune and they kind of enhance it with like proper instruments. Would you listen to that, or you always still prefer the sort of purest sound of the SID?
At the heart, I love the SID probably above all, but I love the stuff we've done with the symphony. I quite often listen to Slay Radio, and there's a lot of remixes on that, and it's the same thing. A good tune's a good tune if it's, as long as it's been remixed well, so it, you can tell what it is, and someone's put their own spin on it. I quite like them. I mean, I've got the Fast Loaders. They've done Rock Hubbard, which is loads of Rob Hubbard songs done like metal style, like it's kind of like prog metal, so a bit like Rush and a bit like Coheed, them sort of bands. They did the Ninja Musicology, which was all 3 Last Ninja soundtracks, just all done with wailing guitars, fast drums, and metal, and they sound fucking awesome. So, yeah, it works for me. I don't mind listening to the remixes as long as they're not rubbish.
I'll say that's the key. Some remixes I've heard, I think, yeah, that's a pretty good job. And some I've heard, I just think are utter shite. So I think they've ruined it. So it's a bit hit and miss. I can't say definitely. Oh yeah, they're all great, because no, they're not.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to hear somebody else's take on a tune, but I always kind of gravitate back to the original SID. As you say, if a tune's good, then it's still going to be good, and I think I still prefer the more kind of pure sound from the C64.
I mean, I do as well, but having heard what Chris Abbott and Rob Hubbard and the guy they've got working with them, Ali Pickering, have done to turn 3 voices into 80 for this orchestra, and I've heard some of the rough cuts. At the moment, they're being mastered by Alistair Brimble, of all people. I've heard some of the rough cuts, and what they've done to get 3 voices into 80. I mean, some of the tunes, I'm actually like shocked at how good they were. I mean, when Chris was talking about it, I wasn't sure. I thought, well, is this really going to work? I mean, a SID tune done by an orchestra, and he sent me a very preliminary version of Monty on the Run done on keyboards but with orchestra sounds, and I was like, oh yeah, that's going to work. Because if you think about like the solos on Monty on the Run, it sounds like guitars, it sounds like violins. Having that actually done on a proper violin section is something else. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I think it was on the one show. I think they had a 10-second bit of the orchestra playing, and it did kind of put the chills in my spine. Amazing.
Yeah, it does also, of course, depend on the particular tunes that are chosen. Some really lend themselves well to the whole idea. Some would be a disaster, I think, if they were to choose it. I particularly think that the music of Fred Gray would lend itself well to being orchestrated. He's said in several interviews that when he's putting something together, he was often imagining how it would sound being played as an orchestra. So it's like it was in the back of his head all the time. So if you picture like some of his, I don't know if they've been chosen for any of this, the symphony remake, but I think they could work quite well.
Yeah, I'm keeping hush about
that. Okay, right.
I don't know what I can and can't say.
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
it's out there, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. The only sad thing about the symphony is that it happened just after Ben Dalglish passed away, and he was quite a driving force behind it, and he was going to orchestrate a couple of tracks, and there were a few tears from people on the night. I didn't know Ben particularly well. I spoke to him a few times over Facebook, particularly when there were some issues with the Ninja Musicology going on with System 3, which is something I'm not even going to begin to get into. And he seemed like a genuinely nice guy, and I said to him, if we ever meet up, Ben, I will buy you a beer, and I never had the chance to do that, and that last year in Hull would have been that chance, and unfortunately he passed away the October previously, but yeah, he was well into it, and there's some of his stuff that really does sound really, really epic when played by him. via an orchestra.
Do you think is that because I was just before we kind of start talking about our 5 things, I was just going to briefly just kind of chat about some of the kind of the best known guys. I mean, obviously, I think they're all. I think it's fair to say that. I mean, I've written down about 10 here. It's fair to say that probably there's no 2 C64 musicians or composers, whatever you want to call them. They've all got their own distinct sound, haven't they?
They have, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
You know, I mean, even though a C64 is just an electronic device, it's an instrument, and you know, it's the same as guitars. You get 10 lead guitarists, and they've all got their own sound. So yeah, I've just written down in absolutely no order here at all. Is it Chris Hulsbeck? Is that how we pronounce it?
Hulsbeck, yep.
Hulsbeck. I must admit, him, and then after that I've got Jerome Tell. These guys, I think they came along a wee bit later into the industry, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, Jeroen is he's the same age as me. In fact, I found out talking to him yesterday. I'm actually 60 days older than he is, and he was taking the piss out of me. Yeah, I mean, he was doing music through the night when he was either at school or college. I think he started when he was about 15. He's probably going to cane me if I've got it wrong, because he will watch this. But yeah, he was like working through the night, and you know, he'd get tapes from people saying, "Can you make a 64 version of this?" And he'd stay up all night, do it, give it back to him, and then toddle off to college and spend the rest of the day knackered. And yeah, so his main sort of start, I think he was like 88 onwards, really, when he was really doing things like Cybernoid and stuff like that. And Chris Hulsbeck, well, he's more known for the Amiga, I think. Even though I've recorded a couple of his tracks on my albums, he's more known for the Turrican games on the Amiga, I think, really. Turrican 2 is another one of those soundtracks where I've loaded the game up, pressed the space bar, and gone from the music menu. I've probably got that recorded on a CD somewhere. But yeah, he did some good stuff on the 64 as well.
That's Chris's favourite game, eh?
Which one's that? Oh, Turrican. Yeah.
You did love the music, to be fair. You did love the music.
Yeah, the music was great in it, and that was the only thing I liked about it.
I think it's fair to say we're probably going to differ in our choices, because as his, I mean, I had actually sold my C64 in, when would it be, 87, beginning of 88, I think it was. So I had kind of moved on. So probably some of the most technically proficient tunes I was never really kind of aware of.
Possibly. I mean, certainly, you know, the likes of Rob Hubbard and Martin Galway set the bar. And then along came the likes of Jerome Tell and Chris Hulsbeck and all of that, and they were just raising it that little bit further. But again, it's down to, you know, the actual composition itself, how good the actual music was. Being technical, you know, and being able to make the sounds great is all very well, but if the music's crap, it's crap, you know. So yeah, you've got to be able to write music as well as actually, you know, program the chip itself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think for myself, I think that the game that came along, and it was obviously Zap picked up on it, that just opened our ears to how good a C64 could be, was a Thing in a Spring with Rob Hubbard. That was the sort of the one that kind of kicked it off, I think. I'm not a big fan of that tune, I have to say, but that was, listening to this thing was like, wow, you know what I mean? What had gone on previously was just like shit, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I was used to, like, I mean, I'm you know, I'm not that much younger than you. Obviously, I don't know how old Lukozer is, but I'm
I'm the same age as you.
Oh, right. So, I remember being a kid, just being able to reach and be able to play Space Invaders. And then as that moved on through like 81, 82, I remember you had little jingles at the beginning of Gallagher, and you know, the little at the beginning of Pac-Man. Yep. And then it's gone from that into all of this that we're talking about now. So it's a massive leap. And the guys that, you know, that program these tunes, they made their own bits of code to be able to address the SID and get it to do this stuff. They're programmers and musicians in their own right. I mean, I know Rob Hubbard composes a lot of stuff with a piano, and then to turn that into code and then make the noises come out in sequence on a 65, that blows my brains out sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was the first kind of tune that you heard, Chris, or sort of Lukozer that kind of opened your ears to, wow?
Well, they really did. Well, I still to this day refer to it as the Transformers loading music, but yeah, Ocean Loader 1, that was 85. The first time I heard it, it was loading up in some computer shop I was in, and yeah, obviously I was already familiar with like loading music by this time, but I had never heard anything like it before. The next week, I bought the game purely because I'd heard the loading music. I hadn't even seen what the game was like. I didn't stick around to see the game. I just heard the music and straight away thought, I've got to buy that. I mean, the game itself turned out to be a load of crap, but the music was fantastic. So I still loaded it plenty of times just to listen to that.
And I suppose you could technically, it would only take like 30 seconds to load the music, and then you can just stop the tape, eh?
You could do that sometimes. You had to wait for the loading screen to finish appearing. Once that had done it, yeah, you could stop the tape and then just let the music keep, looping.
Listen, guys, I'm just thinking we're maybe getting into slight spoiler territory there. So I think what we should do, should we just batter on with our top 5 SID tunes?
That might be an idea. We've been going half hour. We haven't even started yet.
Oh, shit, wait a minute. Go live. Oh, bugger.
Oh, no, you fucking do that again.
I'll leave you. Wait a minute. I'll let you go. Let's take it for the bottom now.
Put it down. Look away from it.
Well, tell you, I'm going to go first because I've obviously got my 5 tunes in a little folder, and then I was going to say, you'll obviously you'll need to let me know what ones you're going. Like a cough, inshallah.
Yeah, go on.
Go for it. Right, okay. This was a very, very, very hard decision. I mean, I could have had 50 million. My number 5 favourite SID tune is Whizball by Martin Galway. So we'll play this for a minute. I could listen to that whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen a few times in this.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. It's an awesome game, but it's just a different level. It's an absolute stunning piece of music. I mean, I think I always think that Martin Galway he almost like uses modern instruments in his SID tunes, whereas maybe your Fred Grays and Rob Hubbard tend to favour more traditional sort of piano-y type things. Martin Galway goes for pure synthesizer. Is that bollocks?
Well, he does use quite a lot of filters in his music, or at least he certainly did after a comparatively short while. Because the only problem with that is that if you had, a later revision or an earlier revision of the SID chip, it might sound a bit different on your 64 compared to somebody else's. That's the only problem I have with the use of filters. But I mean, with Whizball, I mean, he just really did an amazing job on the music there, not just on the main title theme there, but also the high score music as well. Both fantastic pieces. I mean, if I was doing a top 10 of Galway's, both of those would be in the top 10, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Did he know? Can he use like sampling? Because I'm sure one of my favourite kind of wee tunes, and I didn't pick that for this video because it's just a very, very small kind of tune, is When You Die, you've got the guitar, the big guitar riff.
He could well have done. I know he did. I know he used sampling in the Arkanoid theme, but that was for the percussion. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was sampled for the Game Over jingle in Whizball.
Yeah. I mean, very, very technically proficient. What about yourself, Panther? What, are you a fan of Whizball? Tune?
Yeah. It's a great tune. I'm not sure if he used samples for that kind of guitar solo for Game Over, but what he did by using the filters is something else. I read somewhere, I don't know how true it is, and Martin, if you ever watch this, I'm sorry, but I'm sure I read somewhere that a lot of his early stuff didn't appear to have the same sort of drum sounds that Rob Hubbard did because he couldn't get on with them. And it weren't until he started using the digi sounds that a lot of his stuff had more kind of drum beats in. So his early stuff is very filter heavy. And I mean, I've got my 64 wired up to surround sound, and with 2 SID chips in, it really, a lot of his stuff really throws out wide, and it's an amazing sound. He's one of them people that a lot of I don't want to get into the arguments that were going at the time. Someone said he wasn't a musician, he was just a programmer. Well, if he was fucking good at what he did.
I can't agree with that. Who the hell would say that? No.
Yeah, cracking tune. So I think that's my number 5. That's Whizball by Martin Galway. Right, we'll start at the top, Mr. Lukozer. What is your first one? And I'm going to hunt for it.
I don't know if we've already mentioned this or not. I've done it slightly differently, so I've chosen like my favourite piece from my top 5 64 musicians. Also, I can't put these in any particular order, so I'm just going to pick them at random. So my number 1, or rather my number 5, will be Fred Gray. And it's the Mutants theme.
Mutants, right. Give me a second, here we go. Yeah, so Lukozer, why is that in your top 5? It's a nice tune. I'm not really familiar with that, I must admit.
It's one of those where I can't put my finger on what exactly it is that he's done that's right about it, but everything just seems to come together, especially when it gets on a little bit further than the point where you stopped it. And I remember an interview with him. I'm sure you've both seen it because I think it was in the From Bedrooms to Billions video when he was talking about this and there was one part which was going to be the bass line and it wasn't working out, so he changed it and made it into the main melody, and that part I just think sounds fantastic. It works really well, considering it was literally, well, the impression I get is it was a spur of the moment, oh, let's just try this, see how it works, and it just worked fantastically. So it's really like the sum of all its parts. It's just everything comes together and it just makes one seriously good piece of music.
Mm-hmm. How long does it last? Do you know?
It's about 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes, I think, something like that. But it does, it keeps on looping, so you could have it playing for like 3 hours if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Panther, what do you think of that one?
That's one of those tunes that I would have loaded the game up. I think that tune was the loading music as well, wasn't it?
It was loading music, it was title music, it played through the game, there was no getting away from it once the game started loading.
Yeah, no, that was another one that I used to load just for the music. So, yeah, I think that's a great tune.
Let's be honest, the game was pish, was it not?
No, I thought the game was fantastic.
The game's all right once you work out what you're supposed to be doing. It's definitely a read the instructions job, that one.
So,
yeah, there is that. Yeah.
See, when it played in game, did it do that annoying thing where if you press fire button to fire, it would cut out one of the voices? Or
no, you could choose between music or sound effects. If you had the music playing, there were no sound effects. So a lot of the time, I would play with sound effects simply because I'd like to actually be able to hear if I'm shooting something, So, yeah, if I was actually playing the game, I'd have the sound effects on. When I'm not playing it, on goes the music.
Mm-hmm. I think actually the C64, correct me if I'm wrong, was probably because it was the first real capable bit of hardware that could actually play music. Games became before the C64 came along. Music, you didn't really get music in games. I mean, a lot of arcade games never had music. Certainly the early games. Can you imagine playing Space Invaders to music? It was just unheard of, you know what I mean? And I think because the C64 was so capable, suddenly people realised, wow, we can actually have a really good bit of music playing, because there's nothing worse. Well, there's lots of things worse in life. There is nothing worse than playing a game and it's got that same irritating little 5-second loopy sound. I think we've probably played a few of these over the years.
Yeah, Moonwalker springs to mind. I mean, it's not a game you'd want to play at the best of times, but God, the music in that drives you insane.
Anyway, moving on. Right, Mr. PantherUK, what is your number 5?
Right, my number 5, and we're going back to 1986 for this one. It is Martin Galway. Now, I tossed up between Whizball, there was Comic Bakery, there was the Loaders, but I've actually gone for a bit of a long one. I've gone for Parallax.
Parallax, nice. I'm glad you included that. That was on my periphery. Sorry, lads. Out of all the pieces so far, that's the one you need to listen beyond the first minute.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Hang on, I need to turn it down again. I'll be honest, when I first heard Parallax, I think Julian Rignall was going about how wonderful the music was, and I loaded it up and I thought, that is shit. But then it was only actually when I actually listened to it properly, I realised what a really, really amazing piece of music it is.
It does. It builds. It builds and it builds, and then it turns into a completely different song, and it's got a mad tail off at the end. It's just one of them things that works for me. And when I first dug my 64s back out of the garage and was setting them up again, I was going through the tapes that worked, and that was one of the first tapes that I loaded up again, and we got that epilepsy-inducing screen on the background with a writing and that music, and it was like, it gave me the goosebumps, and I was like, yeah, and I left it playing in my dining room at the time, just left it on in there, and I think I let it, because that one loops as well, and it's about 13 minutes long, and I let it loop about 4 times while I was doing other stuff. So yeah, so I think it's a classic. Galway at his finest.
He was really trying to do something a bit different as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So that is your number 5. Okay, right. This is going to be a short one. My number 4, and I think it's the second one. It's one of the tunes from. Well, in fact, I would probably say all of the tunes from Way of the Exploding Fist. Yeah, it's. I don't know. He's not a guy. I mean, were you familiar with him, Panther? Neil Brennan.
Yeah, I was just about to look up some of his other stuff because I do know it, but it's doing my head in that I can't remember.
Well, some of the other notable tunes that he played, he did Castle of Terror, which I think Chris and myself were listening to the other day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on the last live stream.
I think I don't know, if Martin Galway was Jean-Michel Jarre, then Neil Brennan was probably John Williams. He would do music, Jaws. I mean, I just think that bit of music, and even the other parts of the Way of Exploding Fist, he's absolutely fucking nailed the voices. You know, you could not have got a more appropriate, even if you had a proper band playing it, you couldn't have got a more appropriate music for the type of game. You know, I just think he's very, very, very clever.
Well, he's definitely a master at atmospherics. Definitely. I mean, you look at the both the Fist games, the music on them is superb. I mean, Fist 2 might not be the best game, but the music is out there. It's brilliant.
I mean, he's not done. What else has he done? I'm looking here. Castle of Terror, Fist 2, The Hobbit. Yeah, there was apparently did bring out another Rock and Wrestle. That's one of Chris's favourite games.
I'm not familiar with that one, but actually I'm familiar with the title, but I've never played it. Yeah, as soon as I see the word wrestle, that's my interest gone.
But I just, like I said, I wouldn't, you're not going to sit and listen to that I don't know how long the Way of Exploding Fist loops. It's maybe a minute, a couple of minutes tops. You wouldn't sit and listen to it in the car, but I just think as far as mastering the SID chip, for what he was trying to achieve, I think he absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the Way of the Exploding Fist audio in general, but there is a particular reason for it. I didn't have the game, and I didn't know anybody who had it for the 64, so my first game of that sort of ilk was International Karate. So, you know, with that, okay, the sound effects may not have been so good, but you had Rob Hubbard's version of, you know, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence playing there, which was great, though it's not on my list here. And I just think that overshadowed the audio for Way of the Exploding Fist a bit too much.
Yeah, I think that again, you know, I think from a technical point of view of the game, I think International Karate would always be technically a better game. I've always favoured Way of Exploding Fist. Again, it's like Blur and Oasis, you know what I mean? You've got to make your choice. Or in our case, none of them, but anyway. Metallica, AC/DC, yeah. Right, that was my number 4. That was Way of the Exploding Fist by Neil Brennan. Lukozer, sir, your number 2.
My number 2, okay, I'll do my number 4 instead.
Number
I think.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying you're keeping up to date.
One of us is still awake. Right, well, for this one then, we'll go back to Martin Galway. This is another fairly long one, though it's nowhere near as long as Parallax. Perhaps a bit of a cliched choice, but there's a reason why it's a cliched choice. So it's the main title, if you can call it title screen music for Miami Vice. And, well, we'll let a bit of that play before I go into why.
Got to say, that's the first time I've actually ever heard that, and that's impressive. Is that?
I could listen to that for hours.
What's that?
I could listen to that piece for hours. I just think it is just fucking superb. I mean, very heavy use of the filters, or at least it certainly sounds like it again. But that's the music I was referring to earlier when I bought the game. I was expecting the game to be absolute shite because I hadn't read any reviews or anything of it, but I just saw like new Ocean game. It's going to have a new Galway piece. I'm going to buy it. And when the game finished loading and that started up, I just sat there for like 5-10 minutes just listening to that. I couldn't believe that a Commodore 64 could produce music like that or any sort of sound like that. So if that had been on a Jean-Michel Jarre album or something, I'd have been well pleased with it. I mean, it's not totally original. It is based on a piece that Jan Hammer did for the Miami Vice soundtrack. I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but I just think it's phenomenal. I had never heard the 64 do anything like that before.
Mm-hmm. What do you think yourself, Panther? Are you a fan of that one?
Yeah, it's another classic, another good choice. I didn't even think of that one when I was looking through my Galway section. But yeah, it is the way he just blends them notes together and gives it that Commodore 64 wibble and through the filters. It's an astounding piece of music, regardless of whether it's as the Lukozer says, regardless of whether it's on a computer or not. If that was on a Jarre album, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. It's that good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Again, how long is it? How long
oh,
is it?
God, it's got to be a good 10 minutes long, I think, that one. I mean, let's face it, the game itself was absolute shite. It really was. But the
Yeah.
music was just phenomenal. So to me, okay, it was 10 quid I spent, getting that. But to me, even though the game was utter crap, it was 10 quid well spent because I had that music.
Mm-hmm. Wonder how these guys actually thought when they put out an absolute epic bit of music and then Ocean gone and stuck it in an absolute shit game.
I've wondered that myself on several occasions. How do these people feel? They've gone to all the effort to compose something that sounds like this, and it's on a game that is just utter shite, and no one's going to play it.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, Zap's going to get a hold of it and they're going to say, this is pish, don't buy it. And then, so ultimately, this bit of music that Martin Galway put together.
Although this one did go on to become, and deservedly so, a Galway classic, despite the fact it's on a game that's absolute crap. So I can't have been the only one who went out and bought it just for the music there.
Mm-hmm.
No, a lot of the guys that did the music didn't realise that we'd be looking back now. I know when I was talking to Rob last year, I spoke to his wife as well, and I said, does he realise the impact he's had on people? And she said to me, I think he's beginning to. And I know, I can't remember who it was, but there's at least two more that when Chris Abbott started up C64 Audio and started remixing this stuff, all of a sudden they were like, well, people are still listening to our tunes. And I think some of them were shocked that it had the sort of following it's got. I mean, they all know now, but at the time, they had no idea that it was going to carry on like it has.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, actually, just when you guys are talking, Ocean must have, they had Martin Galway, Rob Hubbard, who was the main companies that he worked for? He worked for he kind of spread himself across quite a lot, didn't he?
I think he stayed freelance throughout, didn't he? I don't think he was ever contracted to anyone.
Some for Mastertronic. I'm not sure if he's done anything, but he's done a few Martech. He definitely, I think he did stay freelance.
Aye. But then there's Ocean. I'm wondering why somebody in Ocean thought, wait a minute, Miami Vice is shit, but people are going on about how fucking brilliant music is. Why did they not bring out a tape that had, like an album? There was never like a tape with SID tunes on it. That would have been something that people would have bought. I would have certainly have bought it.
Well, if you think about it logically, mate, one cassette album, what was that at the time? £7.99 for 16 songs. 16 games at 10 quid each. Do the maths.
Yeah, exactly. That is the reason.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, if people don't buy the games, I don't know how many I'll put it to you, Lukozer. If you had, you said you never even loaded the game. You didn't realise how shit the game was, or did you?
No, I'd never seen the game before. I'd not seen any reviews or anything. I just bought it on site because I knew there was going to be a new Galway track on there.
And if you'd seen the game and known it was pish, would you have still have bought it?
I probably would have waited, and if I'd seen it on like a sale price, then I would have bought it.
So I think, I understand what you're saying, Panther. They're going to obviously want to. They realise that the music's going to help people buy the game, but you'd have thought that even in the sort of like maybe a couple of years later they could have thought about it, but I don't think they never released SID tunes as a kind of standalone thing, did they?
Well, I'm pretty sure all of us. Oh God!
I say they did do a thing called Data Hits, which was like a.
I had that. Yes.
A spreadsheet thing on one side of the tape. Yeah. On the other side of the tape, you had Rambo, Ghostbusters,
Crazy Comets, Never Ending Story. I'm sure. Oh, and Hypersports.
Yeah, and they were all done with a Commodore 64. But they were done with I think it had an FM plugin. So they had like what would sound like proper drum beats and proper synths with a SID, but it was all done with a Commodore 64. That was about 1986, I think that come out.
Yeah, it's got to be around that sort of time. Yeah. I
So
think it was.
Was that an audio tape then, basically?
Yeah, audio
Yeah.
one.
I think it was a W.H. Smith exclusive or something like that. That was the only place I ever saw it, anyway.
No, interesting. Oh, there you go. Anyway, that's your number 4. 4, was it?
4. Yeah.
4. Right, over to you, Panther.
We're sticking with number 4, yeah? You're sure about that now?
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm going all the way up to 1990 with this one. Now, I don't know which one to choose out of these two, because one of the tunes from this is the longest SID ever programmed. And it weighs in at 32 minutes. And that is the in-game music to Gordium Tomb by my good friend Thomas Detert.
What was that? Sorry, I missed that. What was it called?
Gordium Tomb.
Gordian Tomb. What's the name of the guy, the author?
Thomas Detert.
Thomas
Detert.
Detert. Oh, right, let's see if we can find him. Detert. How do you spell that? D-E-T...
D-E-T-E-R-T.
D-E-T... Ah, there we go. Thomas Detert. Right. Okay, what was the name of the game?
Gordian Tomb. Gordian.
Oh, Tomb. I've never even heard of this. Right, let's go.
Right, before you play it,
yep.
Are you using a form of SID play?
Yeah, just SID player. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably play SID 1, the title tune, because even though the in-game tune it could have been written by Tangerine Dream, it's that good. It is 32 minutes and probably won't get going, so I'd play the first SID, the title tune.
Right, we'll go for it. Yeah.
I'm as familiar with that one as Mainmeister seems to be. I've never heard that before, but that extract just told me enough. I've got to hear the rest of that. That sounded amazing.
Tom is, he's someone I've become friends with over the years. He's a German fella, and he's been programming since the late 80s. He was more towards the end of the 64, so like I say, that one's 1990. And he programmed more often. In fact, I think he did most of his stuff on the 8580 chip, the revision one.
Oh, yes. Right.
So that's why them filters on that sound really, really sort of bassy, because that's what that chip can do. And it's worth looking at a lot of his stuff, Detert, but that is probably my favourite. I mean, I like the in-game music. I mean, it's 32 minutes. The game, it's not a bad game. Graphically, it looks quite nice, but the sound on it is something else. And if you look on, I don't know, the Deep SID website they've got now, it is still the longest SID at just about 32 minutes and 2 seconds, I think it is. And it don't repeat either. It could have been 10 songs, but he's done it all at once. And I asked him how comes before, and he said it because he was young and stupid. with a winky smiley. So
that's as good a reason as any to make it that long.
Yeah. What I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to put. We'll pull together every SID tune that you hear tonight. I will put. In fact, Panther, would I be well within my rights to have like to pull all the SID chips to get all the SID tunes together and put them onto my like a download link, or would that be breaching copyright? Do you think? Would I be better just listing them? Do you think?
You might be better listing them. I mean, I think so far there's only one I haven't recorded, so could probably. I'll have a word with Chris Abbott. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. It'd be ideal if the people that are watching this could just download a zip with all, well, potentially 15, might be slightly less.
Well, if you're going to do it as just SID files, then they're already public domain on the high voltage SID collection, so that wouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah,
I mean, are you? So
yeah, I will. We will list every single one that we've picked down below as well. So yeah, that's impressive. I mean, you can tell. I mean, 1990, I had moved on to Commodore Amiga for God's sake at that point. But you could tell they'd really started to get into the intricacies of the C64 and, made it, basically made it sing, it was really started to mature at that point. The fact that it's 32 minutes, I mean, what size of file would that be? Well, in fact, I can tell it's 10.9K.
Well, there you go.
32-minute track squeezed into 10.9K. That is...
And that 10 point whatever you said K, that also includes that 2.5 minute intro as well, the title music that you played. So it's effectively 34.5 minutes there in 10K.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, enough said. Right, is it my turn now? I think it is, eh?
Yeah, you're keeping up well with this, aren't you? Yeah.
Hey, I've got the technical part trying to find the bloody tunes.
Number 3, Alan.
Yes. 3.
Right, number 3. Okay, let me just. Oh, in fact, I've got it opened up there. Right now, I was debating with myself where this was going to sit, and it was going to be at number 2, but another one came along and just nudged it down. It's an in-game tune, and it's going to be no surprise, and I'm convinced Lukozer's got this. It's by Rob Hubbard, and it's Commando. I didn't want to hit that mouse button. Wow.
Well, I'll get surprise number 1 out of the way. That wasn't my Rob Hubbard choice.
Right, Lukozer, what? You a fan of that one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, is there anyone who is not a fan of that? I mean, that... It's almost like, the definitive Rob Hubbard, composition, that thing. And I do like the story behind how it came about. I'm sure you're both way familiar with it.
No.
You're not familiar with that one?
No.
I'll tell you what, I'll let Panther tell you that one.
Well, it depends which story.
Well, basically...
The one where he was locked in all night with it, with the arcade machine?
Yeah, in the chip shop, yes. Basically, he composed it overnight. I don't think he had even heard the Commando music before, but he had the coin up there in the chip shop. So he was listening to the music there, came up with this version there, and bosh, 24 hours later, there's the music for the game.
Wow. I mean, it's the first. It's probably about the best bit of in-game music you could ever play. You can't listen to that and not tap your hand along with it. It made me play Commando constantly. If you took that music out of the game, it would be the game, a very, very, very average game. But that one piece of music was what made me want to play that game. It just lends itself so well to the actual game itself. The I don't know, the military style sounding, I don't know how he did it, but I just think it's an absolute fantastic bit of in-game music. I'm not a fan of music generally in arcade games because I think, like what you were saying, Lukozer, sound effects are part and parcel of a game. You need to kind of be aware of what's happening, listen to sound effects. Music generally spoils a game for me, but you could not play that game and not have that playing. It's just an absolute fucking epic bit of music.
No, I think you summed it up pretty well there. I mean, obviously, Elites were more than happy with it because they were quite happy to cut out chunks of the actual game itself in order to accommodate this piece of music that Hubbard had put together.
Have either of you played the new version, the Commodore Arcade SE?
I've not played that one yet, no.
Well, they've put the levels back in, and you can have the original music, and someone else has done a reworked version of the music. And I must use that, said no one ever, because it's a good SID, but it's not Commando.
Yeah.
Anyone that plays that without Rob Hubbard is lying, basically.
Yeah.
It's worth looking at that.
And it's the entire soundtrack of the game is great as well. The jingles between levels, the high score music I think is fantastic. Yeah. He just got it all spot on.
And he composed that over one night, yeah?
Mm. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Awesome. Anyway, yeah, that's my number 3. Lukozer, over to yourself.
Over to me, right. My number 3, well, I say number 3, I'm doing these in random order. So this one then is Your Own Tell. This is the in-game music for Eliminator. For me, that one, it's all about the bass in that piece. It reminds me of like 70s funk, where I just think it sounds fantastic. A lot of the time, I can almost like blank out the main melody, and I'm just focusing on the drum and bass section. I mean, the whole thing, I think, sounds fantastic. I think Your Tell is one of those musicians, I don't think he ever did a bad piece of music. But there is just something about that particular one that just stands out for me. I just think it's just great.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's done a bad bit of music either. I mean, I wouldn't say I was biased because he's a friend of mine, but but I've been I've been recording a lot of his stuff recently, and I haven't come across anything where I've thought, well, why on earth has he included that? Everything is solid, even like his demo stuff and things like that. And yeah, that's a great piece of music. He does do a good bass line.
Yeah.
He really does.
Mm-hmm. Was that in-game music on the game?
Yeah, that was the in-game. There were no sound effects in the game. The game itself isn't bad. It's a bit simple. Well, the premise of the game is simple. It's actually pretty difficult to actually get anywhere. Well, the first level is simple. Level 2, forget it. So the difficulty curve really takes a sharp.
Kind of like Trailblazer, but you actually see the wee spaceship.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot slower than Trailblazer, but then so are a lot of games. Yeah, the layout is quite similar to it. I always thought it looked great. I liked the scan lines that you got on the, well, I say landscape, but the track and the way that you got all the gradients and everything as well. So it looked great. It sounded awesome. So yeah, it was definitely a game worth having, even though it was quite basic.
Yeah, and that was Shusin, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Aye. So did Jerome, did he work? Was he an indie, or did he kind of concentrate on? Was he?
I've seen him do music for loads of different ones, so I assume he stayed freelance.
He did quite a few bits for Houston, but I think he did freelancing as well.
Yeah, obviously did Cybernoid.
He'll probably correct us in the comments when I send him the link to this. So.
There you go.
Apologies, Jerome, if we got that wrong, mate. But ace piece of music. Superb. So that was your number 3, I believe.
That's it.
Yeah, right. Over to yourself, Panther. What is your number 3?
Well, amusingly enough, it's Yarun Tell. But my one is from the 1990 game, which was a pretty poor port of the arcade thing. I don't know why they bothered on the Commodore 64, but the music for Golden Axe is something else.
I so wanted to listen to the rest of that.
Yeah.
Bloody awesome.
Well, the story behind that is whoever it was, I can't remember which company put that game out now, but what they did was they gave Yarun a tape of the arcade soundtrack and said, can you do some covers of that? And that piece there is a cover of the in-game music from the arcade, and that was the one where he stayed up all night and knocked it out before he went to school or college the next day.
I mean, there's so much going on there. I mean, I know the SID chip does 3 sounds, but you know, I don't know how we managed it, but there was
they cheat. They put drum beats on the end of bass notes, and they put little notes on the end of lead notes. So even though you've got 3 voices, the way it's played together, it sounds more like 5 or 6 because of clever trickery.
Yeah. And even the whole speed of that. I mean, if there was a thrash metal SID, that was there. You know what I mean? Incredible. Incredible.
One way you can really hear those sort of tricks. Have you seen any of the videos on YouTube of the chipper phone? It's something that is Finnish guy. I can't remember his name. What I'll do, I'll put a comment in here once I've been through and had a look there. But he took one of these old like Yamaha organs. He's put a SID chip into it, made it completely programmable and everything. And he's done plenty of videos where he's playing these actual pieces. And look in particular for his video where he's playing Delta, the Rob Hubbard piece. And at the start there, you can hear he's setting up the percussion loop. And you can really hear there where they use one of those tricks. And the actual snare drum is fitted towards the end of part of the melodic loop there. So that will give you a really good indication of the sort of things that they used to do.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'll get the link for that, and I'll stick it in the comments on this one.
I'm actually really looking forward to listening to the ones that I'm not familiar with, listening to them in their entirety.
Yes, yeah, especially that one that I've already forgotten the name of.
Golden Tomb or whatever it's called.
Panther's number 4. Anyway, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Great choice.
Gordian. There you go.
Great choice. Right, if I'm not mistaken, it's number 2 time, I think.
It is.
I believe it is. Right, like I said, I was fighting hard. Number 1 was always going to be number 1, but number 2 and number 3, it was a close call. And Commando was my number 3, but number 2, and you've touched on it, Chris, it's going to be a Martin Galway one, and it's the Ocean Loader version 2. Yeah, how could you not be impressed with that bit of music? Just
How could you bring yourself to stop it?
I know.
I do have to make one confession though. I prefer Ocean Loader 1 to Ocean Loader 2.
Yeah, well, what is actually the difference? I mean, I was listening to the two of them, and I just preferred that one. I think it's got a more distinct...
The tempo in after the introduction sequence, the tempo is a lot faster in version 1 compared to 2. In 2, it slows right down, but that's the main difference. There are a few other more subtle differences towards the end, but the main one is the tempo of the piece.
Yeah, I think, am I right in thinking that I think there was something like 6 versions of it, and I think Martin Galway did the first 2.
Yeah, I know there's definitely at least 5. The third one, it starts off like that and then it just completely changes. To be honest, I don't rate it very much. I don't know if that was Galway or if that was Jonathan Dunn, but I'm pretty sure Loaders 4 and 5, which were totally different, I think they were both Jonathan Dunn.
Yeah, they were Jonathan Dunn. I think number 3 was possibly Peter Clark.
All right, okay.
I can check.
I'll tell you right now, Peter Clark did Ocean Loader 3, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Wonder what had Martin Galway, had he left, had he gone to Sensible Software at that point, do you think, or what?
Oh, I think he must have done, yeah.
I wonder why they changed it. Why would you change it?
Something different sounds, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Presumably, any like tunes that these guys wrote always for Martin Galway, that would be the intellectual property of Ocean, wouldn't it? So they could do what they wanted with them, really. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of people retained the rights to their music. There was a bit of a hoo-ha about that with the Last Ninja stuff, with who owned the rights to the music, and apparently, from what I could tell, from what I was very much on the fringes of that, the rights remained with the composers. So I don't know if that works for all of it, but I've never been. I've recorded. Got to be getting on for 12 hours worth of music I put out on C64 audio, and I've never been pulled up. I mean, all right, I've asked a few people. You know, I asked Chris Hulsbeck because I know he does stuff with SID music, and he said as long as it's not for profit, be my guest, go ahead, thank you, sort of thing. So that's why I never charge them anyway. I mean, I'm only recording other people's work, but I've never had an issue with copyright or someone complaining at me yet. Anyway.
Interesting, but no, I think that's, as you say, Chris, because I mean, when I first heard that, you actually looked forward to loading an Ocean game just to hear that music.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's just astonishing. You couldn't fail to be impressed with that, you know.
Of all the Ocean games, that one, Ocean Loader 2, was the one I had on the vast majority of mine. I think I only had like about 3 or 4 that used Loader 1. I only had like a couple that used Loader 2. I didn't have any with 4 or 5. Sorry, like a couple that used Loader 3. But yeah, I had a whole slew of Ocean games that all used Ocean Loader 2. That might be why I prefer the first one, because I got a little bit sick of hearing the second one all the time.
So that's my number 2. That's Ocean Loader 2 by Martin Galway. Mr. Lukozer, number 2.
Right, number 2. Well, PantherUK mentioned him just now. This is Chris Hulsbeck. Most people will say that the Amiga version of this theme tune is the better one, which I think is about to completely give away what I've chosen. So it's the title music for R-Type.
These fast-paced ones are always hard to stop, aren't they?
Yeah, that is quite a short one. That it's only about 2 minutes 15 in total, and then it just loops round. But okay, there's a sort of stupid reason why I rate this one higher than the Amiga version's title music, because back in the day, it was the Amiga version that I had that came out, what was it, 87, 88, somewhere around then. And obviously, the Amiga title page music is fantastic. It's totally different to that. You don't need me to tell you, both know the Amiga version. So I kept on hearing that one, and it was only about 3 or 4 years ago that I first heard that 64 version. I'd never seen or played the Commodore 64 version of R-Type. I mean, anyone who sees my channel knows I detest R-Type with a passion, but I do like the music, so, you know, that's the one redeeming feature that it has. So, I mean, some people may think that, so it's the novelty value because it's something new. I mean, it's far more than that. I just think it sounds amazing. It's another one like Mutants that I first chose. Everything just all comes together and it just makes one just amazing piece of music. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah, nice bit of music. Were you familiar with that one, Panther?
Yeah. I've heard that one. Chris Hulsbeck, there's something about him that he manages to get almost Amiga type sounds out of the SID chip.
Yeah.
He does. Some of his bass lines could transpose across to the Polar chip on the Amiga. He's another one of those musicians. There's something else. It's like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Really, really good.
No, nice bit of music. Again, is it a long piece? Oh, you said it's quite short.
Yeah, it's quite short. So it's about 2:15.
Yeah. Nice. Right, over to yourself, sir, for number 2.
Well, I was umming and ahhing between my 2 and 1. In the end, this made it to number 2, and this is the one that changed everything. From 1985 by Rob Hubbard. It's Crazy Comets.
Crazy Comments. Crazy Comments? Crazy Comments?
That's a very different game, that.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Amazing. Yeah, he's absolutely.
Introduction to SID music, that was, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think was the first Rob Hubbard piece I ever heard. So that's quite an introduction to Rob Hubbard. But as an introduction to 64, yeah, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, and that's why the Spectrum got drop kicked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even just an impressive piece of music. The fact that it's based on, planets spinning round. He's nailed a planet type sound. I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, you become Rob Hubbard.
Yeah. He's the one to ask that question.
Just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Well, I mean, when I spoke to him and I said to him, you basically changed the way I think about music. I was like, I listen to Maiden and Slayer and Creator and Overkill and all these American thrash bands. I said, and then because of the 64 and because of you, I listened to Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis, Tangerine Dream, and the complete other end of the music spectrum. I said, it's all your fault. And he just laughed at me and signed my shirt.
Awesome, absolutely awesome. I mean, again, you couldn't listen to that and not be impressed. I mean, it's amazing.
So do you prefer that one? I think this is more a question for Main Meister, actually, because I'm pretty sure I know what PantherUK's answer will be. Do you prefer that one or the remix version in Mega Apocalypse?
I can't say I'm overly familiar with Mega Apocalypse. I mean,
okay, that does surprise me. I mean, I got to say, I prefer the original one. The Crazy Comics version, I think, is the better piece. And by a distance, actually. Not to say that Mega Apocalypse doesn't sound good. It's a great piece. But for me, I think the Crazy Comics, well, it doesn't just edge it. It does beat it by quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I mean, Mega Apocalypse is a superb piece of music. But yeah, I prefer Crazy Comics out of the two.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we just quickly, let's listen to 30 seconds of this one since, what was it again? Mega Apocalypse, we said it was.
Yeah.
Quite a long gap at the beginning of it.
Yeah, let's listen to this. Crazy Comets all the way, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great. You know, nothing wrong with preferring one over the other, but I do think Crazy Comets is the better piece.
That was a more kind of chilled out kind of version, wasn't it, I would think?
It does pick up a bit in the middle, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, nice. So anyway, here we are, we're at number 1. Now, I'm actually really surprised, I don't know about you guys, that we've not had any duplicates.
I've been thinking that for a little while now, yeah.
Yeah,
A couple of times I was shitting myself and you're going, it's got to be that. I'm like, no, and whoo. Right, I don't know how we want to work this. Why don't we all just, will we just keep doing the way we're doing it? Or should we just announce what I'm thinking? If you agree, I think number 1s should get played in entirety. I think that they deserve that. As long as you're not going for that Gordon Coombe, whatever it's called again. I've got my bed in half an hour. What do you think?
Well, we can do. You may have second thoughts when you hear what my one is.
All right. Well, we'll maybe play a bit more than just a minute. I think.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, will we announce them all at the same time, or will I just pick mine first? Tell you what mine is first.
We might as well carry on in the order we've been doing. I think.
Right. Okay. It was always, when we first came up with this idea for a video, it was always going to be this tune.
I think I know what this one is.
You know what it's going to be? Yeah, it's Monty on the Run by Rob Hubbard. I mean, I don't need to say anything. Right, where is it? Are we all right to listen to this right through, or is that?
Totally up to you, mate.
I don't know how long it is. So.
I think it deserves it. Oh, just dropped my speaker off the table. Come here, you bugger. Right. Okay, here we go. That never gets old. That tune.
Speaks for itself, that one.
Just and what I love about it, about 2.5 minutes in, you think, oh, it's just going to repeat, and then it just takes it to a whole new level. It does that kind of 2 or 3 times, It's
They're very heavy on the old arpeggio keyboard playing with that one.
It is. I tell you, the Fast Loaders do a rock version of that, and the guitarist's name is Jarla Olsen, and how he can play that on the guitar, note perfect, all the lead parts, is absolutely shocking to watch him play. Something else.
I imagine, yes, yeah.
It's an absolutely astonishing bit of music. You know what I mean? The fact that it's been created on the humble Commodore 64, I think is brilliant.
Sounds bloody good by an orchestra as well, that one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, I was just trying to imagine that. Yeah, I got to hear an orchestrated version of that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number one. So I don't know if I've stolen anyone's thunder. Lukozer?
No, now obviously, my last one is going to be a Rob Hubbard, and he's the big composer that's been missing from my list so far. And I saved it till last because up until about 5 minutes ago I couldn't decide which one it was going to be. So I finally decided it is going to be Arcade Classics.
Arcade Classics? Oh. Wow, but I know some bit of music that, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah.
to put all of that work, all that effort into creating something like that in a game that sold for $1.99. You couldn't buy a bloody 7-inch single, I think, for $1.99 back then. But you bought that game and you got that. The actual game content itself didn't matter. For £2, you got that music. Anyone back in the day who was a fan of Commodore 64 music just had to buy that. I don't know what percentage Rob Hubbard's royalties were on that, but $1.99 per copy for doing all of that. I mean, he kind of made a lot per sale, but he still did all of that for that one title. That just blows me away.
7.35k.
How the hell do you get all of that in less than 7.5k?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after a couple of minutes of listening to that, I really felt I was listening to a guy playing lead guitar. You know, it's awesome, incredible bit of music.
Is once they perfected samples, even though they're only like 4-bit samples or something like that. Once they perfected that in the music, another one that springs to mind is Yaron Tell's Turbo Outrun. That's got speech in it. It's got it's got drum beats. It's got wave sounds, and it's basically a cover of Magical Sound Shower. They were all doing that towards the end of the 80s, and it's amazing stuff. And of course, his other tune like that was EA's Skate or Die. It was another one that had loads of guitars in it. It's absolutely amazing.
I never had that back in the day, so I, believe it or not, have not heard that piece. So I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Oh, definitely.
That'll be in a part 2, I think.
No doubt, yeah.
The thing with Skate or Die, and this is another question I asked him. Everywhere you play, all the SID players, they all play it, as far as I'm concerned, too fast. And what it was, because he went to America when he was working for EA, he was using an NTSC Commodore 64.
Yeah.
So he was using all these standard routines and everything on that machine, and then, programmed the music in and that and composed it. And when we got it over here, of course, we were getting it, 12% slower. So now the actual version of Skate or Die that I hear now always sounds too fast, even though that is the correct version.
Well, it just remains for one last tune, unless, of course, it was one of the two that we picked over yourself, Panther.
I'm really, really surprised we haven't had any doubles tonight.
Well,
you're not the only one.
The one I've picked was Never in Doubt. This song is quite special to me purely because of the conversations I had with a guy, and it's Wastelands from The Last Ninja by Ben Daglish. And that is not only one of my all-time favourite SIDs, it's one of my all-time favourite pieces of music.
yeah. You know what? I'm really glad you picked that, because I was thinking it seems a bit of a tragedy that Ben didn't feature in that, but that's nothing to do with his talent, because he's absolutely sublime. What a fitting ending, I think. Cracking one to finish off with.
Yeah. That was definitely, I think, Ben Dalglish's finest hour, that one.
Yeah. It was a toss up between that and well, not for my number one, but in the list in general, I did think about putting Trap in there, but that's quite a long one. That's another one of his good ones, and that Last Ninja track. It's another one that sounds awesome with an orchestra as well. I know that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's absolutely been made for orchestration, that one.
Well, the one track that I was going to put in with Ben Dalglish, and it's an old one, but it's one of my favourite pieces, is Loco.
I knew you were going to say that. That's
absolutely, I love that. I can't get enough of that. It's just such an upbeat, happy tune. It's a fantastic version. Absolutely stonking. Well, anyway, listen, guys, that is Chris and myself's top 5. I'm really surprised that there was no overlap. I'm really astonished.
Not as surprised as I am.
Yeah, and I mean, I could. I'm sure we could make another 10 of these videos and have different tunes. There's just.
I think if we were doing this tomorrow, I could well have 5 totally different choices here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, apart from probably 1 and 2, I could probably change it around. But the thing is, they're still making games now. So now you've got the likes of Jason Page, Saul Cross, Rob Hubbard himself did some new SIDs last year. You've still got people making games and making tunes for this thing, and they're still using the same 3 voices.
Mm-hmm. I think it just displays if there's not a better, well, there's obviously better videos than this, but if this isn't a display of just how awesome the SID chip was, I don't know what is. I mean, it's just, every bit of music we've listened to tonight is completely different. They've all got their unique styles, and I'm looking forward to listening to these in full, because there's quite a few of these I've never actually heard of before, but
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyway, listen, guys. I want to thank both Mr. Lukozer and yourself, PantherUK. It's been nice to have you on. If you ever want to come back on again, Chris.
Oh, you might be stuck with me now.
You're more than welcome. Yeah, I'm sure we could have 3 grumpy old men.
Yeah, why not? More than
merrier. He's grumpy as that old bugger up the top, but anyway, yeah.
I still maintain our number 1 there, yeah.
No, I'm not going to argue with that. I've watched some videos.
Well, Chris and I were referred to as the finest Laurel and Hardy on YouTube. It might have to be the 3 Stooges, I think.
Yeah, there we go, yes.
So anyway, listen, guys, thanks very, very much for joining me tonight in the video.
You're welcome, mate.
It's been a lot of fun. As is always, and Chris will be well used to it. We say, I'll probably not go for any more than half an hour. So we're just at 2
hours. We're now over, we're quite a bit over 2 hours.
That's all good content.
What's that?
It's all good content.
Yeah, listen, guys, thanks again for tuning in. And finally, guys, I want to thank every single person for watching this. Hopefully, it's created a bit of nostalgia for you. Check the comments down below. I will put links to. If Chris gets the go-ahead for me to put a zip file, I'll do that. And do yourself a favour, go and listen to them all, because I'm certainly going to be doing that. So, finally, guys, thank you very, very much for watching.